Pay close attention, because what you're about to hear may be the explanation you searched for your entire life without realizing it. There is a moment when the whole world slows down, when the soul becomes quieter, and the heavens seem closer. A moment most people ignore, yet it has always carried a power no one has ever been able to fully explain. And the most astonishing part, this power didn't start today. It has followed humanity since ancient times. And if you understand this now, your life may never be the same again. I grew up hearing people say that praying at dawn is stronger because the line is smaller, that in heaven everyone is sleeping, and only those who wake up early get attention. But the truth is very different. And here's where everything starts to become intriguing. There isn't a single verse saying God prioritizes by schedule. What exists instead is something much deeper and something very few notice. Because while many say the early morning is powerful because of the silence, there is something hidden, something almost no one knows exists. For years, I tried to understand why so many people who dedicate themselves to this time experience such unusual encounters. And the answer wasn't in popular sayings, but in a discovery much older than all of them. The Bible shows that there is a difference between talking to God and hearing God. Talking to Him, you choose the time, but hearing, that's completely different. You don't decide that. And this is where dawn becomes a door almost no one opens. Because in most of Scripture, when God decided to speak, reveal, send, visit, it always happened in the same shift, a time most people overlook, between 3 and 6 in the morning. And here comes the first great turning point. It wasn't just one prophet or another. It was everyone. Patriarchs, prophets, kings, apostles, all of them, without exception, were visited in this same interval. It was as if God had left a mark on His own clock. This is where I speak. This is where I visit. This is where I reveal. And when I realized this, I froze. And it gets even stranger, because Jesus, the greatest example of spiritual life that exists, also chose this same time. 4 biblical records show the exact moment He rose to pray, 3 of them in this same shift. Before breakfast, before the light touched the ground, before any human noise, Jesus went out to pray while everyone else was still in deep sleep. And after that, He walked on water, multiplied bread, made decisions, faced crises. None of that was a coincidence. But here comes something that breaks everything you ever imagined. Nearly everything extraordinary God ever did happened at dawn. The 10 Commandments, the sea parting, the walls falling, Jacob wrestling with the angel, David being visited, the angels arriving at Abraham's house, the resurrection, all repeating in the same interval. This is not coincidence. It is pattern, a spiritual pattern. And that's when I started testing this in practice, and I discovered that early mornings carry something no other time does. It's not just external silence, it's internal silence. It's the only time when your heart is not agitated, your mind is not crowded, your phone isn't calling, and no one demands anything from you. It's the only moment when you can truly listen without being interrupted. And when a person places themselves before God in this environment, something shifts. Because for the first time in their life, they stop speaking and start listening. And it's at this point that many answers come. Plans, direction, comfort, revelation, correction. And when this happens, you realize it was never a tradition invented by people. It was a time chosen by Him, not by us. And then a more uncomfortable revelation appears. People who seek God at dawn grow spiritually faster, much faster. In months, they live what others wouldn't experience in decades. And it sounds like exaggeration until you see the pattern. The greatest revivalists in history have the same habit: 4 in the morning. The greatest soul winners, the greatest spiritual movements, the largest churches in the world. Everything always starts in the same place. And do you know what this reveals? That dawn is not just a convenient time. It is a kind of bridge between the natural and the spiritual, where what normally would take years happens in weeks. This is why many call this time the revival accelerator. Because when you surrender to His presence in this shift, it's not your strength working, it's God acting. But there is something greater still, something I discovered only after a long time. While I kept asking God why dawn was so transformative, He never answered. I would speak, seek an explanation, and nothing. Until one day, in silence inside an airplane, reading a verse I had seen hundreds of times, everything made sense. There in front of me was the key, a hidden but clear promise. If you seek the Lord early, you will grow exceedingly. It wasn't metaphor. It wasn't poetry. It was literal. Extreme growth, extreme restoration, extreme acceleration. And suddenly everything became clear. This is why revivals explode so quickly, why entire churches shift, why lives take unexpected turns. And maybe what you always called coincidence was actually an invitation, a calling, an open door, something waiting for you to wake while the whole world is sleeping. Because this is the hour of those who are thirsty, truly thirsty, thirst that cannot be disguised, thirst that aches, thirst that moves, thirst that God honors. But there is an essential detail. At first, it's difficult. The body complains, sleep weighs, the mind gets confused. But if you insist for a few days, something happens inside you. And then instead of you seeking this hour begins to call you, as if your soul recognizes the path, as if His presence wakes you before the alarm. That's the moment everything changes, because that's when you stop being someone who only speaks and start listening. And hearing God changes everything. Your spiritual life changes. Your way of deciding changes. Your vision changes. Your sensitivity changes. You begin to notice things you once ignored. You begin to feel what you never felt. And what seemed impossible begins to unlock. Because when God speaks, He unlocks. He reveals. He corrects. He guides. He opens doors. He shuts the wrong ones. He accelerates. He prepares. He transforms. And maybe this is what you have been seeking without realizing. Maybe it's the thirst you carry and never knew how to explain. Maybe it's the desire to change everything, but not knowing where to start. Maybe it's that silent cry no one hears, but God hears. And now that you know, maybe it's impossible to ignore, because there is a moment when the spirit is more awake than the body. There is a time when heaven opens faster. There is a shift in which God speaks, and you were called to this shift. And if you decide to enter this journey, prepare yourself. Your life may never be the same again. It may take days. It may take weeks. But at some point, you will hear. And when you hear, you will understand why this hour was chosen and why so many who discover this never go back. And if this video made sense to you, remember, there are truths that only transform when they are shared. So leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and continue this journey by watching the video where I reveal other spiritual keys that can completely change your understanding of prayer. I'll see you there.